You're listening to Today at Museum of the Bible with Chief Curatorial Officer Dr. Jeff Kloha. These exclusive conversations with authors, scholars, and leaders visiting the museum focus on how they are currently engaging with the Bible in their lives and work.
Well, this morning we have three guests with us who have traveled from very far away to do some work at Museum of the Bible. And we're honored to have with us here today three scholars and church leaders. So I'll try to introduce by name, and then I'll let you say your names properly. How about if we do that? So the theme today, by the way, to start off, is the Syriac Bible and the history of the Syriac Church related to the Bible. So we have with us Sister Jincy,
Yes.
who is with the Church of the East, the Assyrian Church, and she is based in Pritchard, India. So come all the way from India, from southwest India, to look at some manuscripts here at Museum of the Bible. We also have with us Father Jacob, and I'm going to try this, Thekkeparambil.
Correct.
Wow, I got it. You say it. Say it again, please.
Thekkeparambil.
That's better. Who's with the Syro Malankara Catholic Church,
Yes.
also based in southwestern India,
Yes.
which has a long history of Christianity, which we'll get into. And then from a little closer to home, I guess just a little closer to home, Daniel McConaughy, who's Emeritus Professor from Cal State University in Northridge, and is working on a project on the Syriac text of the Book of Acts.
Yes, sir. And I live now in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Oh, okay. So
we
that's
moved
that's
here
nothing.
a few
yeah.
years ago,
Okay.
but I'm an emeritus professor, and I work in the field of textual criticism. So the Museum
Yeah.
of the Bible is very important for that because it possesses Syriac manuscripts.
Yeah, great. And that's what you were here doing yesterday. Spent the afternoon looking at especially one of our Syriac manuscripts. Would someone like to describe that manuscript and kind of what you came to look for?
That manuscript is based on the New Testament, the Peshitta Bible, New Testament.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting to know that they're writing about from where St. Paul write all these epistles to
Mm-hmm.
here. That is a very interesting thing over there. And the other thing is that after the Gospels, we can say the Acts of Apostles, then James or Peter,
Right.
like that. Then we will go to the St.
So it has
Paul's
the
epistles.
Catholic epistles after
yeah,
Acts,
yeah,
and then
different.
to the Pauline epistles. So a
yeah,
little
yeah.
different
At
order
the end,
than,
we can see the Hebrews over there.
and Hebrews is at the end. The
Yeah,
very
at the end of the.
Yeah.
There is no revelation over there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old is this manuscript that you're looking at?
So sometimes maybe, but I don't know exactly. Maybe it's 15th century, because they are using a lot of vowels over there.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay,
Maybe.
so a little bit
So
later.
maybe we don't know exactly.
Okay.
Whether the carbonic. Maybe we will find out later.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do a little more work on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
that text is the Kaboris manuscript
Right.
that we could read the best. And it has some archaic West Syrian readings.
Okay.
I'm working with a scholar in Germany, Andreas Juckel, and we had certain test verses. I was able to look at 52 verses from certain images,
Mhm.
and it shows a number of archaic forms of Acts. So he thinks we should collate it in
Yeah.
our critical text.
Yeah. So you gave us some work to do, and now we have to image the manuscript and send it to you so you can work on it. But that's what we're here for, right? To get
Yes.
these out there. Yeah. It's a
Maybe
fairly,
after the digitalization of the manuscript, we can find out a lot of things from the manuscript.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a
after
fragile manuscript.
After
Yeah.
digitalization, it's
Yeah.
very easy to find.
Great. Well, it'll give us an excuse to take pictures and put it online for others to
Yeah.
see. It's
Yes.
a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful manuscript. Yeah. So the Syriac Bible, very early translation. But before we get to the Bible itself, could you describe the history of Eastern Christianity? It's the Syrian Church, the Church of the East, which is a very large church and a very ancient church. So could you tell us just a little of the history of that church, its connection to the apostles, some of that early history, and down to the present day? I know it's probably a long question, but
Okay, it's a long history.
yeah,
It's
a lot of
bad-
history.
Yeah. We can start from the Adhayan Mari. sometimes the people say Adhai is Saint Thaddeus. You know, the one Abgar legend we have. In that legend, they're saying that the Abgar, the king Abgar,
Right.
the Ukama, we call Ukama, he wrote a letter to Jesus.
Oh, right.
And,
right.
and he wants to get healed from him.
Mhm.
But at that time, Jesus did not go there.
He didn't
At
go.
the end, the Saint Thomas sent the Thaddeus there
Okay.
and healed. And some traditions say that Saint Thomas went there too.
Mhm.
And after that, he came to India, all the way to India.
Yeah, so St. Thomas to
Saint
India,
Thomas,
which is
yeah.
a very old and
They're all, yeah.
seemingly
Yeah.
reliable tradition.
And even they
Yeah.
met, it is in Mylapore, so not in our city, in the state of Tamil Nadu.
Mhm.
There is here, that's a tomb of Saint Thomas
St.
over
Thomas,
there.
yeah, in India. So,
yeah.
I mean, not outside of the, not out of the question that the church goes back to the first century in India.
In India.
Yeah. That's
But
the,
there is one
yeah.
detail which was underlined by the former patriarch, His Holiness Dimka. Before he went to India, he passed through Mosul.
Yeah.
Oh, through Mosul.
So
yeah.
there is a famous St. Thomas
Saint
Church.
Thomas Church, yeah,
Oh,
over there.
in
So,
Iraq.
yeah.
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 Mosul. Yeah.
And in fact, the relics which our West Syrian Orthodox Church has of St. Thomas,
Mhm.
these relics were brought from Mosul.
Wow.
There is another tradition that Saint Ephraim, he wrote in his poem,
Mhm.
like they bring the relics from India to Urhai.
Mm.
There's
Wow.
a lot of
Then later on, it was brought
brought
back
from there.
Brought back from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
from India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of connection between the Middle East and the India.
Right.
we have.
Right.
Even Silk Road, I think most of the people know that about.
Yeah, about the Silk Roads
Silk
and
Road.
there's
Yeah.
massive travel back and
Yeah.
forth, and Christians travel on these roads. I
Yeah.
mean, Jewish, all kinds of exchange of ideas and back and forth for centuries and centuries.
Yeah.
For the early
Yeah.
Christianity, Iraq was almost like
Yeah.
our mother country
Right.
from the point of view of liturgical tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And the influence of the East Syriac pronunciation is still
Used
still understandable and still
Really?
heard.
Yeah.
Even some
in our Malayalam
words,
words,
yeah.
like kurbana,
Oh, yeah.
They
Right.
use Syriac
Mamodisa,
words.
Right. Right.
sliva,
Hmm.
and so on. So
All right.
Shliha. It's a lot of
Shliha.
Malayalam words we are
Yeah.
using still,
Wow.
and
Wow.
yeah.
So very ancient languages reflecting this history.
Yeah. Even the liturgy itself, we are using the same liturgy.
Mm-hmm.
The Church of the East use the Adhayan Mari, the oldest one,
Okay.
and we have the 10th century manuscript we have.
Okay. 10th century
Say-
manuscript of
yeah.
liturgy. Yeah.
We have the same manuscripts in Thrissur.
Okay. Wow.
It's very interesting to know.
Yeah.
There is nothing changed over there.
Yeah.
So
For
still, we are using the Syriac as a liturgical language in our churches.
oh, okay.
All the priests can sing and recite the Syriac.
The Syriac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So is Syriac still spoken sort of every day, or is it
No,
kind of limited
it's a
to
liturgical purpose.
liturgical
only.
purposes? Yeah.
So
Okay.
classical Syriac.
Classical
But
Syriac.
the
right.
Assyrian people, they speak a Surat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not
Okay.
the classical one.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
here, the Assyrian people also use for the liturgical purpose, they use the classical Syriac.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have the West Syriac tradition in India.
Okay.
Yeah,
Western Syriac.
from 16th century onwards, we are using the West Syriac tradition.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many Christians are in India today in the
In
church?
India, altogether, maybe 3% only. But in
Okay.
Kerala, we have a lot. The
Okay.
Kerala is a
maybe
center of
about
this.
9 million
Yeah,
About 9 million
altogether.
together.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
distributed in 7 churches of Syriac tradition.
Wow. Okay. So 9 million people. It's still a large church. Yeah. So the Syriac Bible, very early translation and very important for understanding the history of the text, both its wording and the canonical questions, which books are in the New Testament, right? So when was the Syriac translation produced, do you think? Any thoughts on that?
Probably the 4th century, and by the 7th century it was very standardized.
Okay.
So one reason we're interested in the Khaboris manuscript is it has some readings from the early period before it was completely standardized.
Okay, so a little rogue witness there. Huh?
Just
Yeah, okay.
minor things.
Yeah.
But so it was very early.
Mhm.
There was another version before that, but it only exists in 2 manuscripts.
Okay.
That's the old
The
Syriac
old Syriac,
Gospels,
right,
only
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So it's very old, and it has a shorter canon than the Greek. It's got the gospel. Oh, well, Sister Jincy
It's
already
okay,
said,
okay.
so I don't
Yeah.
need to repeat
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they have a few books less in their New Testament.
fewer. Yeah.
Interesting.
Even before there is 4 Gospels. Before that, we
Right.
have a Evangelion Dam Helte. That's
Okay.
a harmonious of the Evangelion.
Okay.
Then even now in the Church of the East, we are using that Gospels for the Good Friday.
Oh,
That is a
really?
very
Yeah. Oh,
interesting.
yeah. Right. Yeah. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
piece
Yeah.
it together. Yeah. The
Yeah.
older text. Yeah.
The Old
Interesting.
Text.
That's
Yeah.
the more archaic.
Right.
It was influenced by the Diatessaron.
Yeah,
Right.
it is.
Yeah. The harmony.
Yeah, even now we are using for the Good Friday service.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh.
Dan, quick, what's the Diatessaron?
The Diatessaron was a gospel harmony produced by Tatian about 180 A.D.
Mhm.
He studied under Justin Martyr, who may have produced a harmony.
Right.
But Tatian had moved back to his homeland in the east and prepared this Syriac gospel harmony.
Yeah. In Syriac in the late 2nd century. Pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the translation itself, you think, is probably 4th century, the Peshitta translation?
Yeah, it's began to evolve, but
Yeah.
certainly 5th century. There's no
5th century.
no one knows really. It's just
Well,
always been there.
It's always been there.
At
Right.
first, there were translations of liturgical passages.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Lectionary.
Not
Lectionaries,
the whole
right,
Bible
right.
as such,
Mhm.
but whatever is needed for the liturgy,
Mm.
for example, as the epistles
All right.
or as the gospels, these
Right.
were
These were translated, yeah.
circulated among
Yeah.
the clergy
Yeah.
and also among the deacons
Mm-hmm.
who were actually reading out. However, one should note that there is no reading from the book of Revelation.
Right.
That-
Yeah.
Right, which is
In the- in
not,
the
yeah, I mean,
Western
that's
tradition.
also in the Orthodox Church,
Yeah.
the Greek Orthodox Church. They don't read liturgically from Revelation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not rejected, but it's not a
Right.
liturgical book. Right, right. But it's not in this Caboris manuscript, correct?
It's not. The
Yeah.
Revelation is not in the Peshitta version of the New Testament.
Yeah.
Peshitta lacks 2 Peter, 2nd, 3rd John, Jude, and Revelation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which lines up with what some early church fathers also said about, in the East, so it
Yes.
all fits together. Right.
Another detail which is stressed in the Syriac tradition is the Gospels of Matthew and John
Mm-hmm.
are introduced as korusuto.
Okay. Which,
The korusuto because they are, as we saw in the manuscript,
Yeah.
at least
The
one
Carol
occasion,
Sutta in Syria,
Yeah.
East Syria.
Matthew was a slicho, that means an apostle.
right. Okay. So the eyewitness.
So
right.
the korusuto
Mhm.
was reserved
Yeah.
for Matthew and John,
John. Yeah.
and sbarto, good news,
Mm-hmm.
that was the Syriac term reserved for announcing the gospel of Mark and Luke.
Oh, no kidding. So they made a distinction among the 4 Gospels. Interesting. So eyewitnesses and those who learned from the apostles, I suppose. Yeah.
But this distinction was not recorded
in
in the
the-
manuscript which we saw yesterday.
Okay.
So, here it's always
Everything
use the
was
Carol Sutta, the proclamation.
Yeah, just proclamation.
Yeah.
Yeah, good news. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, all kinds of little puzzles to figure out
Yes.
here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
interesting in that manuscript, that under some of the sections I looked at, they had marginal notes
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
where they changed things, or
Yeah.
they'd write no in Syriac.
that is
Oh, really? No.
Another,
Yeah,
another
which is odd.
interesting, another interesting
Yeah.
thing
Well,
that
it's same in Hebrew, right? Or similar to
Yeah,
Hebrew.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sundays
yeah.
they give the marginal note for this, which is used for this day, the
Yeah.
New Friday, New Day, Good Friday,
Yes.
or the Monday, that's like that.
Mm-hmm.
They give that marginal note also. That is an
That's
interesting.
interesting. So are the marginal notes original to the manuscript, or were they added by second
Added,
copies?
added,
They're
added.
added. Okay. Okay. So somebody's arguing with the.
Not always, it could also be
But the writing,
possible
yeah,
that
it's possible, but
the
the-
scribe
here,
himself,
Okay.
suppose when he was writing, he missed one word,
Mhm.
he used to add in red ink on the margins.
Mhm.
So some of them could come from
From the original.
Yes.
the scribe
Right,
himself,
scribes also, yeah.
because the handwriting is the same.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you see, sometimes it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
The ink is different, then we can understand it's coming from later edition,
Mhm.
later writing.
Yeah. Okay. And Dan, you're working on the Book of Acts, producing a new edition of the Book of Acts.
Yes.
And so kind of what's your work and what are you hoping to find?
All right, so I'm working on the Book of Acts, a critical edition. So I began work on this a long time ago, and now I'm collaborating with a scholar in Germany, and we will prepare. We've collated about 55 Peshitta manuscripts. We'd like to include Kaburis. We have also collated lectionary manuscripts, just
Mhm.
taking the readings of Acts out, and we'll prepare an edition that will reflect the most archaic form of the Peshitta.
Mhm.
I mentioned the East and
Right.
West. We were interested in those
With the
Western.
Western, yeah.
There was the Eastern version dominated over time. And
Ah, okay.
it became really standard, but
Mhm.
so this Western it's older.
Right.
But just here and there, it says usually the same thing. But
Same thing. Okay.
so we'll prepare this. We'll have the critical apparatus, which will include the readings from all the manuscripts
Mhm.
that wouldn't be reflected in the text itself. We have the text
yeah.
up here in
Right.
Syriac, and then all these notes.
Notes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And just to kind of lay out the history a little bit, because Syriac is very similar to Aramaic, which is, at least one of the languages Jesus and the disciples spoke on a daily basis, right? And so it preserves some pretty early traditions, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, now in Syriac, the word for apostle, shlicho, there's a famous scholar at Oxford who said that that's a Palestinian Aramaic term, because they
Okay.
would have used shader or shadira instead of shlicho.
Okay.
So that was what they were called at the beginning.
Really?
Shlicho, yeah.
Shlicho, okay.
And disciple too, talmideh.
Oh, really?
Talmido.
Talmideh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was
Yeah.
an Aramaic term as well, because it would have been what would have been the student word? Anyhow, I don't want to think too hard on that, but
Yeah.
there are some certain terms
Yeah,
in the
that-
Peshitta that they just brought them over from the original. Why
From the
not?
original, yeah, right.
Because the people that spoke Syriac knew the
Yeah.
Aramaic.
Right. Well, it's sort of like we still use the word amen, right? And
Amen,
it's
right,
Just
yeah.
carried it
Eli,
over,
Eli,
yeah. Yeah.
Eli,
Eli, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Talit Takumi.
Yeah.
So,
So in some cases, preserving what's probably a more accurate pronunciation,
yeah.
right? Then we'll
Yeah.
get certainly then we'll get in the Greek text just because it's a closer language.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the Peshitta where the Greek has some Aramaic,
Mhm.
and then it says, which means,
Yeah. Right.
like,
Yeah.
I'm on Shaplakni,
Right.
YSS for
Or a little girl would say to you, "Arise," right? Tell you
Yeah.
Takumi. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the Syriac will reproduce the Aramaic like the Greek, and then it just says the same thing in Syriac.
This repeats it. Yeah. Because
just
you don't need
repeats
to
it.
translate it because it's the same language. Yeah.
but it wanted to preserve that Greek.
Yeah, that's great. That is very interesting because you're right. They're translating from Aramaic into Greek at that point, and
Yeah.
if you're saying it, why do you need to translate it?
Right,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they did.
But they did just to keep the words of the Greek. Yeah,
Yes.
it's interesting. Yeah,
Mhm.
interesting translation approach. Right, very,
Yeah.
very, I guess, literal to the text, or at least preserving the words of the text. Yeah, fascinating.
And the churches prefer to use translations from Syriac texts rather than, even in our local language, Malayalam or English, they prefer to use the direct translations from Syriac Bibles. Although the King James Version is there,
Oh, right.
and some people, there is also a Malayalam translation of that, King
really? A
James.
translation of
And
King
in the
James?
beginning, people were reading that.
Really?
And later on, the churches insisted that the translation should be, Syriac churches, should be based on the Syriac version of the Bible, not the other one.
Not an English version. Yeah, it makes sense. Right, right. So it's a very, very ancient church, long history, amazing history. Sister, Father, what's a little of the work you're involved in today there in India with the churches?
Well,
You can start.
it was the dream of all the 7 churches of Syriac tradition to have a center of research on the early documents, manuscripts of the Syriac tradition.
Okay.
And in the 3rd Symposium Syriacum, which took place in 1980 in Germany, there 2 of our bishops, Maraprem,
From our
the
church.
head of the Assyrian Church in India, and also our Bishop Mar Yohanan, they invited all the scholars assembled in the 3rd Symposium Syriacum and announced the plan and also the intention to have a research center for Syriac tradition in India. And I happened to be an instrument to execute this plan, and with the help of all the scholars who were gathered there, we could collect a good amount of material for Syriac tradition. So about 80% of all the published literature on Syriac tradition could be brought to India. And in 1985, we have inaugurated this center, which is called Saint Ephraim Ecumenical Research Institute, and in short we say SIRI. So it has also some kind of connection with Syriac, Suryoyo, and so on. And it was inaugurated by the head of the Orthodox Church, and Maraprem was there from the Eastern Church. So all the churches were represented by the heads of the churches or by one of the bishops from these churches. And it was the only center where we could have also some editions of the manuscripts, publications, and also all the dictionaries. So Syriac dictionaries were not available in India before that.
Really? Okay.
So we have now the Thesaurus Syriacus, which was the first big dictionary in 2 volumes. Then its popular edition by Payne Smith.
Oh yeah, right.
And Costas was also there. So almost all the dictionaries could be assembled there. And the famous editions of Patrologia Syriaca,
Oh yeah.
Source Chrétienne,
CSU.
CSU, and all these
Yeah.
we have
Have all the
now
resources.
in this
Yeah.
center. So we have a center for research in Syriac tradition. Not only that, after 10 years of our own research, Mahatma Gandhi University adopted us as their research center for Syriac studies, offering us the possibility of teaching master's degree program and also PhD program.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
So
Yeah.
that's a good recognition
Yeah, focused
for
on
the first
study of
time.
Syriac texts.
in
Yeah.
Syria.
Yeah, fantastic.
So
Yeah.
from that point of view, also our government and also the university
Yeah.
was very generous to include Syriac, because on the one hand there are a lot of Malayalam words of Syriac origin.
Oh really? Okay.
So it was not only a liturgical language, it has already influenced the culture and the local language of South India.
Wow.
So that's why people were interested
Yeah.
to have a research center for Syriac.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, congratulations. It's great. Yeah. And sister, what's some of the work you're involved in today?
I studied there over there. I
studied
did,
there, yeah.
I did
One of
my
their first
master.
books.
Yeah.
I did my master degree in commerce
Great,
from
yeah.
our town, Thrissur.
Mhm.
Then I moved to Kottayam, Siri, for my master degree in Syriac there.
Mhm.
After that, I did my PhD over there.
Mhm.
Then he was my director also.
Ah, okay.
Then after that, I did a lot of translations
Okay.
from the Syriac into the. I'm looking on the liturgy always.
Yeah. Okay.
I liked it very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Then now I'm the research guide of the his institute and the Mahatma Gandhi University.
Wow.
Then teaching in Syriac and other places.
Yeah. So some
like,
teaching, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
When the Catholic seminary, I'm teaching there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then we have the Church of the East have one institute, theological institute in Sydney.
Mhm.
Nisibis Theological Institute.
Okay.
By online, I'm teaching there too.
Oh, wow. Teaching online.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then we have schools. Then last 3 years, the bishops appointed me as a manager of the schools over there
Oh, wow.
in our town, Thrissur.
Right. Mhm.
So I am working there.
Also, yeah, so administrator, scholar, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Fantastic,
Everything
fantastic.
there.
Well, I understand that you're open to chanting for us in Syriac, and
Yeah, we can do.
yeah, we could do that.
The Lord's Prayer.
The
Lord's
Lord's
Prayer in
Lord's
the
Prayer, yeah.
Lord's Prayer in the
We
East
didn't
Syriac.
have the text, I don't know, I must see.
East
We have
Syriac
the
I can sing, then he will do the other one.
Let me see.
I don't have that much good thought. Anyway, I will try my best.
Yeah, please.
No, I have the text, what we sang yesterday.
Yeah.
This is actually taken from the commentary of Mo Jacob of Saruk,
Okay.
expired in 521,
Okay.
so of the 6th century.
Right.
He has a lot of 4 volumes of memory,
Okay.
poetic commentaries on the Bible,
Okay.
and one of them is on the Lord's Prayer.
Okay. Great.
This is the longest commentary which exists in the Syriac tradition on the Lord's Prayer.
Mm.
So he has also composed the Lord's Prayer with elements from the Bible,
Okay.
and at the same time adding some more comments so that each line can have 12 syllables.
Okay. So it mentions.
And also some deepening of the words, of the themes of the Lord's Prayer. So this can be sung in 8 different melodies,
Wow.
and it is called octoechos. You know, the
Makes
Greek
sense, yeah.
also knows that. And Wesleyians are still singing their liturgical hymns according to this principle
Okay.
and this tradition of octoechos. Of course, this can also be sung in the East Syriac melody, for example, of Mar Narsai. Mar Narsai also wrote most of his commentaries with lines of 12 syllables.
Oh, okay.
So that means we can sing either in
Yeah.
the East Syriac melody or in the West Syriac melodies.
Wow.
So we'll sing 2 melodies.
Okay.
So we'll take the slowest one first, and that is from the West Syriac tradition. Hokanolam Salau Atun Modam Salin Bund Bashumayo Net Kadashmo Kakdob Kadish Titalawotan Opmalkutok Men Kardite Obsebionok Nehave Barabo Agdabashumayo Hablalahamo Mina de Yomo Men Bet Gaso Washbo Kaubain Uhasahutohain Akdash Bakanan Walnesiyuno Lotailain Damhilinan Yelo Pason Atmen Bishod Rabu Hailok Metodilok Imalkuto Gaboruso Obshultono Amteshubuhatol Olminamin. Now the same
Yeah. Beautiful.
in the East Syriac melody.
Okay. Eastern now. Okay.
Fortunately or unfortunately, this melody accompanies the burial service.
Okay.
Especially
But all
for
the
Syro
same,
Malankara.
it is
Yeah.
also very popular in the liturgical celebration
Okay.
for other occasions also. Hokanolam Salau Atun Modam Salin Bun Bashmayo Net Kadashmo Adab Kadish Titelevotan opmalkutok men karbite obsebiono nehave baravo adbashmayo habilalahamo minadayaumo men betkasok wasbuk haubain uhasahutohain Akadash bakinan wal nasiyuno lotayelain damhilinan yelo pason atmen bisho drabu hailok metul dodilo kimalkuto ugaboruto obshultono Am tashbuhato la'ulamin amin.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Lord's Prayer in Eastern and or Western and then Eastern Syriac, yeah.
Hymn on
Or hymn
Lord's
on the
Prayer.
Lord's Prayer, right? Yeah.
The Lord's Prayer is different.
Which goes back centuries and centuries. Yeah. Well, thank you.
6th century.
6 centuries.
521 is the death of the author,
Yeah.
who is also very popular with Daniel.
Ah,
He
He
does.
has,
We have
yeah.
that is our common translation
Ah,
of the
okay.
memory of Jacob of Sarug on
On
Holy
On
Baptism.
Holy Baptism, great.
So all his writings can be sung in 8 different melodies.
Really?
It's
Fantastic. Theology, which is just put into verse, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's been a delight to have you here with us the last couple of days, and thank you for sharing about your work and the church in India and the Syriac Bible. And we look forward to the publications on this manuscript and learning more about it. And wish you safe travels back home.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
Tim.
for honoring us
Yes.
with your invitation, this prestigious institution.
So wonderful to see.
We have
yeah.
heard of it, but we have
Have
now
experienced
a
it.
golden opportunity to be received by you, and also to see the museum, and also to all that you do for the Bible, which is supposed to be the scripture and the nature, according to Saint Ephraim, are both teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Scripture and nature. And your commitment for scripture is really a good lesson for other countries also.
Yeah.
Well, thank
That's
you.
right.
very much.
And thank you for your partnership in this work.
Thank you very much for your wonderful hospitality too. So,
You're most welcome. And
Thank
come back
you.
again.
so one day, God's know.
And thank you for listening to Today at Museum of the Bible.
Thank you for listening to Today at Museum of the Bible. Join us again to hear how authors, scholars, and leaders are engaging with the Bible every day. Only on Today at Museum of the Bible.